Welcome to the Real Estate Masters Podcast, where we interview the top names in the real estate game. If you want to grow your real estate business, see more podcasts, or get free resources, go to www.remcommunity.com. The only podcast that allows you to directly connect with the guests and many of the highest level names in the real estate game.
You are in for a treat with our next guest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to go to remcommunity.com to connect with some of the highest level real estate professionals in the United States through our community and through our high level masterminds. Let's go.
Welcome to today's show. We have an awesome guest as usual today, Daniil Kleyman. Very diverse guy. He's got a software company, which I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about. He does some ground up development. He does commercial real estate. He's done some residential, done all kinds of good things. So I'm excited to have him on. Daniil, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. So we connected in a kind of a mastermind type group just recently. Someone else actually recommended you and your software. So I'm really curious about this software. So I guess we'll get into that here in a little bit. But let's start with your background. Let's get to know you a little bit more, how you started and kind of how you got where you are now, where you're doing, software and ground up development and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. I'll give the 30-second story instead of my whole life story. I'm an immigrant originally. I came here from Russia in '92. Came here with my family. Out of college, I ended up working in New York and Wall Street. I had a job and I had a number of jobs in finance. I bounced around because I didn't quite really fit into a lot of places. But my job was in bond trading and bond deal structuring. And when 2008 happened, I was working for a company called Bear Stearns. So if you were around during those days, you probably remember that name. It's one of the top 5 investment banks in Wall Street that completely blew up in 2008 and got bought out by JP Morgan. And my position was basically eliminated and I was laid off. Thank God. At that time, I was already really interested in real estate, but when they pay you a bunch of money, you don't leave. It's so hard to walk away from a really nice salary. What they call it, golden handcuffs, right? So luckily 2008 happened and I had no choice. They let me go. And at that point in time, I decided I'm done. I'm not going to hunt for another job. I'm going to take this as a sign. I'm going to take this as an opportunity and go work for myself. And so in 2008, I moved back to my hometown in Virginia. And I had already passively invested in a couple of rental properties and I wanted to grow that. And I jumped into real estate full time. I started buying one house at a time. I did some wholesaling, but very quickly I started doing bird deals, basically, right? You buy a house, you renovate it, you put tenants into it, you refinance it, and I was using a private lender, and you take that money and you roll over to the next deal. And I started building my portfolio up one house at a time. I didn't have much money at that time. I came from a very nice salary in Wall Street, but I didn't save anything. I was in my 20s. So I was living with my parents. I was 28, 29 years old. I moved back in home with my parents. And while I was building up this real estate portfolio to try to replace my old income, lived with mom and dad for a couple of years. And until I probably got to about 6 or 7 houses. And I started generating enough income to then go and pay my expenses and pay some rent. And at the same time, I started the software business almost kind of like an accident. I needed something for myself to be able to evaluate deals. And at the time, I was relying on private money lenders to fund me in order to build this portfolio of houses. And I needed something to generate presentations to those private money lenders to show them that, hey, this is the deal. This is how much you're going to get paid. This is how you're going to get paid off. And I came from that world where I kind of understood how to speak to investors and understood what people want to see in order to trust you to give you their money. So I built a tool for myself, and then I made it available to a couple of other investors. And they said, "Man, this is really cool. You should sell this." And I organically started the software company, and since then it grew into, we've been able to help. There's a free version, the paid version, and the free version has been in the hands of probably hundreds of thousands of investors at this point. And we've been able to help a lot of people since 2009 when I started this business, and been able to meet a ton of people through that business. So it's been very cool. And, again, my interest almost immediately was in monthly income, right? Everybody seems to enter the real estate business wholesaling or fix and flipping, but I bypassed wholesaling very quickly. My interest was in how can I build back my monthly income to where I don't need to work. I can replace my old corporate income and I can grow it from there. So my interest has always primarily been in that mailbox money. I don't really get excited by flip checks. We flip houses. We build probably 8 to 10 spec houses every year right now and sell them and make very nice profits on them. I'm weird. It doesn't get me excited. I just want that monthly, reliable, recurring income to keep building.
You like that boring money, right?
I like the boring money because the boring money will come in. It's predictable. The boring money will come in again next month and the month after that if I stop doing deals. And to me, that's hugely important, right? I don't want to have to hustle for that next deal if I don't want to, or if the market dries up. So, again, I started doing bird deals and I did one house at a time, and I slowly then got into buying and renovating, duplexes and 4-unit buildings. And then I got into new construction. So my business right now is primarily, we build ground up rentals, anything from duplexes to I'm working on a 150-unit project that's going to go to permit here in a couple of weeks, and everything in between. So I'm building a 25-unit mixed-use project now with 21 apartments and 5,000 square feet of commercial space. 16-unit project, bunch of duplexes. Like my bread and butter is just building duplexes because you can build them by residential building code. It's cheap. People love to rent them, and they cash flow very, very well. So that's, that was longer than 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
No, that's good stuff. That was good stuff. So it sounds like the rehab valuator, which sounds like a great thing that's been in many hands of many different people, came out of necessity, right? It's like you needed something that you could use that would help you to analyze deals, raise money, pretty much, do most of what you needed in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the multiple businesses, right? So I have multiple businesses as well. And I know other people that they start in business and they start with something, whether it's wholesaling, rehabbing, whatever it is. And then they start veering way off into different things. And for some people that can work if they laser focus and like get something and do something really well, like veering off is not a big thing, but I find that people chase too many shiny objects. Sometimes I was one of them at one point. I'm much more focused in just real estate, even if there are other things I go outside of my main businesses. So tell us how that has been for you. Like when you started the software business, you were doing real estate at the same time. How were you able to do both of them? Because it sounds like both of them you've been able to scale pretty well. How did you take on both of those so efficiently and be able to keep both of them up and running at a high level?
So, I'd be lying to you if I told you that there wasn't a constant tug and pull, right, between the businesses. And we have an in-house property management company, but I'm fairly hands-off with that. I started both companies almost as a hedge. They were both nothing at the time when I started them, and I said, I don't know what's going to grow. Let me scale up both businesses and see which one takes off, and then I may not continue the second one. And but they've both grown and scaled, and it helps that they're very complementary businesses. Meaning, when I do real estate deals, I can take what I learned in the market and I can apply it, and I can improve our software. I can record content and training for our users that comes from real world experience, and I can release that to our email list and to YouTube and deploy real world knowledge about real estate, and then use the software to demonstrate how we do the deals. So it's been very synergistic. So that helps, right? If these were totally unrelated businesses, I think I would have closed one down by now.
Yeah, because
but
you can make changes every day, right? Because if something in your software you're using it and it's like, oh man, it would be cool to have this feature, you can just jump in and have your
yeah,
programmers change it, right? So it's yeah, it definitely ties together.
and that's what we've been able to do. I mean, the software has evolved from something very simple to now something that has very, very deep functionality, and it's evolved basically almost based on my needs, right? There's a whole project management suite there where it's basically a construction management software now, and that's evolved from my own needs to be able to create very quick cost templates so I can estimate my projects going forward and create you know, detailed budgets for my lenders, and then schedule out my projects and in-app accounting where I can actually track every rehab and every construction project I'm doing and know in real time where things stand. And now we can do lender draws inside the software. And so it's evolved based on my real estate business and the needs there. But to answer your question, it comes down to, I think, hiring really good people. And I'm still figuring that out, and I'm probably understaffed right now, and that's one of my big focus points for this year is how to delegate more, because I am probably your classical control freak. I have a really hard time letting go, but when I let go and I put that into the hands of, every time I've ever let go and I put that into the hands of a really good, competent person, I've not only never regretted it, but I've always been able to then obviously scale a lot more and focus on higher level tasks. So, I've done a decent job of hiring some good people in both companies, and it's something I'm working on improving even more this year. And um, it also requires to not be greedy, right? Because every new person I hire, my overhead grows, and maybe my net income in the first year when that person comes on board takes a dip because now I'm paying their salary. But in the long term, it's always a good decision.
Yeah, you touched on some really good points. For me, I've said this many times, is if, back 10 years ago when I was doing most of the work myself, I had a staff and I fired my whole staff for the second time. So I had to take back everything.
Mm.
And, from that standpoint, it was like, I was the chokehold of the business. Like, everything came through me. And I thought that at that time when I took it back, I was the best at everything. Like I would negotiate best with the sellers. I could manage the contractors the best because I knew what work needed to be done. And what I found is, fast forwarding about 4 years, back in about 2014, I stepped out of my business. And when I looked at everybody in my organization that was running the business, the person that was taking the calls was taking them better than I was, because they were more patient. They were more,
And that was their only job. Like
that's their only
that's
thing.
their world. So they better be amazing.
And they had the personality for it, right? And then the acquisitions, it was like, they did it better than I did, because again, they were better customer service. They were more patient. Me, I just wanted to drill in, get the job done, and then even the contracting, I would get so frustrated with contractors, and I would try and just like drill them and just like push them so hard. But my project manager now, she has a little bit of that she needs to have, but she's also very detailed and patient, where she's like, okay, didn't get done today, but as long as you get it done tomorrow. And like, so every position that I've hired for, I thought would take a dip, and maybe it did in the very beginning because I had to train, but then it just like, those people did it way better. But even if they did it 75% as well as I did, like it was still worth giving up, because I could go create other businesses or other streams of income, or raise more money, or find another marketing avenue that I didn't have before. Right. So it's great stuff, and we talked about this right before we jumped on. It's like, I love talking about automation. Like I get fired up when I talk about like growing and scaling, because I've got, 6 businesses I'm running right now. And, a couple of them are newer and, fairly inefficient, but I've got, other businesses that are running really well. And I wouldn't be able to do the other businesses if those weren't running well. So.
And that's the only way to keep your sanity too, because it's that classic paradox of, we all get into business. We all say when we're starting businesses, we want to do it for the freedom. Then we end up working 3 times as hard as we did when we had a full-time job and a boss, nights, weekends. If you're anything like me, you're constantly thinking about this crap. You're going to sleep thinking about it. You're waking up, you're thinking about it in the shower. I've got two toddlers and I catch myself, you know, I catch myself, but like when I'm with them and I need to be present with them, I still catch myself drifting off and thinking about some real estate deal or some bullshit that's not really that important compared to my kids. And it's that classic paradox. Like that's not why we got into business. That's not why we suffer all this, frustration and heartache and take these risks. So we work harder than ever the rest of our lives, right? And the only way you do that is through automation, to your point, and hiring really good people. That's the only way you can get out of it and create actual time freedom for yourself. Without the time freedom, and I'm not perfect. I'm getting there, right? But it's something I've really been focused on. Is the time freedom. There's nothing more important, right? That's the most valuable currency you're ever going to have is ability to control your time. And if you do not have ability to control your time, you're not truly free. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. So, that's it's automation and it's delegation.
Yep. Yeah. So we talked about people, you talked about your software a little bit. So that's another thing. So like great systems in place, right? So Rehab Evaluator's a software, or what you could also call a system. So let's jump into that a little bit more, because I'm very intrigued about that. So tell us again, and you may have already gone through this, what the software exactly does. So from beginning to end, just walk us through the phases of exactly what that can do for other real estate businesses.
So picture your sort of deal process start to finish, right? It starts with, if you're wholesaling or if you're doing your own marketing to sellers, you're doing that, then you're getting leads. And then you get a lead, you need to analyze that deal, you need to figure out what to offer, you need to pull up comparable sales, you need to research the property itself, right? You need to get the offer, get the contract. If you're wholesaling, you need to sell your deal. If you're buying a deal yourself to flip or to turn it into a rental, you need to get money to fund that deal, and so on and so on. Our software basically picks up at the lead stage, right? We do not give you seller leads because there's 50 million data companies out there and 50 million software companies out there that will give you seller leads. But as soon as you have a lead, our software picks up and helps you do everything from there, meaning you can analyze multiple exit strategies. You can click a button and pull up owner name, contact info, all the property stats from public records. You can click a button and pull up comparable sales and calculate your after repair value and your offer. You can get the deal under contract. And then if you're wholesaling, you can create very clear marketing presentations and syndicate them to social media or text blast them to your buyers and get that deal sold immediately. And if you are rehabbing, or if you're going to be keeping this property as a rental, you can generate very effective presentations and deal funding proposals for your hard money lenders, private lenders, banks. We use the software to generate bank presentations for $20+ million ground up development projects as well. So you can use the software for multifamily, single family, everything in between. So now you got funding, you're closing on this deal. The other piece of the software is project management and construction management. So you can create a detailed budget, scope of work. You can click a button and load an existing template and with costs pre-populated there. So you can estimate repairs in the project. You can then, there's a visual project scheduler where you can lay out the schedule of the whole deal, right? This is when plumbing happens. This is when electrical happens. This is when we close up the walls. This is when windows are going in, et cetera, et cetera. You can share that schedule with your team. And then there's an in-app accounting that allows you to throw QuickBooks away and basically account very easily your costs during the project and know exactly where your project stands, or your bookkeeper can do it inside the software, and then generate real-time reporting. Hey, this is what we budgeted. This is what we spent so far. This is who we've got left to pay. Are we over budget, under budget? And you can share that reporting again with your lenders, partners, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, and we pick up at the lead stage and we help you with every stage of the deal from there.
I
That
love
makes
that.
sense.
I love that. So just so I'm clear, is it considered a CRM as well? So if a lead comes in,
Mhm.
can you manage the leads, or is it just finally when you get the deal under contract, then that's when you'd put it into the software?
If you treat the lead as a property, you can store unlimited properties in the software and unlimited deal analysis of properties, right? But it's not a true CRM because it's not going to let you manage your follow up with that lead until you get the deal under contract, right? It doesn't have that component in it.
Gotcha.
So, not to say that we won't have a CRM at some point, but it's really not our superpower. Um, so we've kept out of that sandbox for the time being.
Well, fantastic. Well, if you guys want to get a free trial of that or a free version of that, go to tonyjavier.com/valuator. We'll get a link and a code set up for you guys to get into the free version of the software, try it out, see how you like it, and check it out. So I think that's something we're going to do with our business, getting to know you a little bit better and
Cool.
what you do. I think that'd be something that's great for our business because there's not a lot of, like you said, there's thousands of data services, there's hundreds of CRMs, there's all kinds of different things to get you to the deal. But once you get the deal, like people don't like, there's a lot of management to it, right? It's valuating, it's raising the money, it's organizing the job site. And this is something actually I'm probably, now that I think about it, I do a lot of gap funding for real estate investors. And a lot of them are newer. They've done maybe a project or 2 or 10, but any which way, they're having trouble managing their jobs. So I think this is something that I may ask them to plug into to help them manage the jobs better, because that makes my money safer. And on top of that, if they send me a deal, maybe there's a way for them to put the information into the software and then send me the package through that makes it easier to read. So we can talk about that. I like that.
Yeah, lenders love seeing those reports because it breaks down what you as a lender want to see. This is the ARV. This is what I plan on buying the deal for. This is how much I'm going to put into it. This is what I'm going to sell it for. Oh, here is a report with comparable sales. Here's my budget. Here's what you're going to make to the penny if I have this deal and this money out for 6 months, 9 months, etc. So our users are communicating data points to the lender that the lender actually cares about and wants to see to gauge their risk. So it's been very effective for fundraising, especially.
Awesome. Very nice. Very nice. Well, we're going to start wrapping up here. You've been in the business for what, 12, 13 years now, right? 2008, I think is when you said you guys started after the layoff.
Yeah,
so
that's when I went full time.
Yeah. So tell us about learning lessons. Like for me, 20 years, I could spend 2 days just talking about ups and downs and learning lessons and all that kind of stuff. So, what are some things that you feel like you've learned from? Because for me, like even things that have been really quote unquote bad in my business typically ended up turning up good because something came good out of it. Whether it's a learning lesson or I ended up hiring someone that I had, after I had to fire someone and it turned out, to be a good thing. So what are some things you've learned throughout the last 13 years of business that you'd like to share with the
Sure, I can
audience?
go through a couple of things. First of all, when there's a down market again, buy more. Whatever you plan on buying, find a way to double or triple it. Right? I mean, we all probably look back at 2010 and 2011 and wish we picked up 10x, in our portfolio. So when everybody's running scared, and it will happen again. I don't know when it will happen, but when everybody's running scared, make sure you're not one of those people and that you're out there buying. And related to that, time cures a lot of mistakes. That's been one of the big lessons. I mean, I did some deals and I bought some rentals where I probably overpaid, but you hold property long enough and you allow the magic of holding that property long enough take effect, right? And what do I mean by magic? Depreciation, amortization, appreciation, and rent growth, right? And if you just can weather the storm, time will eventually erase a lot of the mistakes that you make. My original properties I bought at the top of the market and I paid top of the market money back in 2006. I just wanted to get in the game. I wanted to get in the game, and I bought properties passively with a buddy of mine off of MLS. Overpaid. They came with a ton of deferred maintenance, and almost as soon as we bought these couple of properties, the market tanked. I still sold them in 2017 at a 20% premium over what we paid in 2006, right? I mean, just things that I should never have bought. We held on to them, and time cured the mistakes that we made. But related to that, those properties taught me another important lesson, which is just because somebody says something is turnkey, just because there are tenants in the property, doesn't actually mean that it's turnkey. And I see a lot of investors make this mistake where, they're buying properties that already have tenants in them, and it seems easy, right? You're taking over an asset, and you can start collecting rent right away. But they're not screening for deferred maintenance, and all that cash flow that they think they're going to be making ends up going back to replacing heat pumps, replacing roofs, replacing. So I learned that lesson early on, and I've almost never bought properties with tenants in them. Quality of product and quality of construction is incredibly important. So everything I've done has been either a gut renovation, where then we have a like new property, or now I do new construction, because again, I have a property that will, once my permanent financing is in place, I'm actually pocketing that cash flow, because it's not going to fixing random things in the property. It's maintenance free. So all those things are kind of related. Buy more, buy smart, and don't assume that something is turnkey just because somebody says it's turnkey. That's a popular marketing phrase now, turnkey rentals, but don't get caught.
Well, you said something that really resonated with me. Time cures mistakes. I really like that quote, because when you make a mistake in the moment, you kick yourself, and you're like, and sometimes, I don't know if you've done this before, but you feel like you're trapped. Like, I made this mistake, I'm not going to get out of it. Like, this is going under, there's things that go through your mind when you make a big mistake. And so just knowing that time cures that, because there's been many times in my business where I wanted to give up, I wanted to quit, I wanted to I had to fire my whole staff, like I said, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, knowing what I know now, I mean, I kind of knew this, but the way you said it just resonated even better. Like, time cures mistakes. Like, there's going to be better deals down the road that are going to make up for it. There's going to be better employees down the road that you're going to hire, even if you lose a good one or have to fire a bad one. There's always going to be better times down the road. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's always an opportunity, right? I mean, that's what seems like a really bad situation. You can usually reframe it and look at it as an opportunity. You had to fire your whole staff. This is your opportunity to hire better people. And this is your opportunity to slow down a little bit and rethink your systems and your processes so that you can then go faster down the road, right? And yeah, usually whenever we're faced with a really crappy situation or a really bad, dire sort of event, a couple of years later, you look back on it, you don't even remember it. And yeah, for some reason, like for me, it's always been also staffing related, right? I mean, I had one property manager that worked for me. He was my first property manager, and he was my only property manager. He managed my whole portfolio, and he quit on me right in the middle of leasing season, and I had to take over his position and do his job, which distracted me from really important things in my core businesses. And it sucked, and it seemed like end of the world at the time, but it gave me an opportunity to then hire somebody much better than him. Mm-hmm. And I look back on that situation as a positive event, because it created an opportunity to improve. It was a momentary setback, but we're better off for it. Usually everything is like that. It very rarely is something, end of the world, even though it feels that way.
Yeah. Like, I've been divorced before, the first one was a practice run, got divorced, thought it sucked, but the next one came along and it's much better than the first. So
there you go. Yeah. Everything's an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great, Daniel. It was good to connect with you, to get to know you better. I think there's a lot of synergy for us. And again, if you guys want to get a free version of the Rehab Valuator, go to tonyjavier.com/valuator and get a free version of the software and check it out. So thanks again, Daniel. Appreciate your time, and we'll connect again soon.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening. Now go to www.remcommunity.com to connect with today's guest, see our high-level masterminds, and to get free resources. Don't forget to share this with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you on the next episode.